2 minutes, okay. Okay, 5 minutes. We will start the meeting in 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience. You look at Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ward 3 Community Safety Town Hall. My name is Castro Liu. I'm the Ward 3 Councillor for the City of Richmond Hill, also the host of tonight's meeting. And thank you all for joining us tonight at this important town hall meeting. It's heartening to see so many of you here, both in person or those are online, especially on the coldest night of the year. As this demonstrates how deeply we all care about the safety and well-being of our community. As we gather today, we face a critical opportunity to come together as residents, law enforcement, and community leaders to discuss the issues that affect us all, which is crime and safety. The aim of this meeting is not just to talk about the challenges we face, but to work together to find solutions that will make our streets, homes, and neighborhoods safer for everyone. And let me start by introducing our guests at the panel. And we have a pretty good Mayor David West, Mayor of the City of Richmond Hill. And I would like to personally thank him, for all your support behind the scene. We have the idea of this town hall meeting since November 2024. And thank you for making this happen. Thank you, Mayor West. And also YRP, York Regional Police Chief, Jean MacSween. Thank you very much for being here. And I remember when Chief was the commander of this district. So he has a history with Ward 3. He actually watched how the neighborhood watch in Bayview Hill and Ward 3 developed. So thank you very much again for being here tonight. It means a lot to us. And also we have MP, members of parliament for the city of Richmond Hill. We have Mr. Majid Jawari. Thank you. And MP for Rural Regions Richmond Hill, Lee Taylor Roy sent her regrets. And also from the provincial government, we have MPP also representing Richmond Hill. And also we have York Regional Police Deputy Chief Paulo da Silva, Superintendent Ian Hill, Inspector Colin Alexander, Detective Sergeant Jason Dinsmore, Detective Sergeant Jason Jackson. Also, we have Constable Mo Chong, Crime Prevention Officer, looking after us in Ward 3. Also from the city of Richmond Hill, we have Mr. Andrew McHenry, Manager of Bylaw Education and Enforcement. And I know that crime can have a lasting impact on families, businesses, and individuals. It can create fear, disrupt our sense of security, and challenge our way of life. But I strongly believe when we unite, when we share our experiences, raise our voices, and collaborate, we can make a difference. So tonight we will discuss how are these issues being addressed and how the community can play a role in combating crime. Most importantly, we will open the floor for conversation because your input is invaluable. The concerns you raise, the ideas you bring forward, and the solutions you propose are critical to creating a safer environment for all. So please remember, we are all working towards the same goal, a community where everyone feels safe, secure, and supported. This town hall is an opportunity for us to engage in a productive and respectful dialogue about the challenges we face and the steps we can take to address them. And I understand that issues around crime can be deeply personal and emotional, and it's normal to feel strongly about them. However, as we have this conversation, I ask that we approach it with respect for each other's perspectives. Our goal is to listen to one another, share solutions, and foster a sense of collaboration. Insulting comments or personal attacks will not be tolerated, as they do not contribute to the constructive atmosphere we are working to create. Instead, let's focus on a respectful, solutions-oriented discussion. For over a decade, I've had the privilege of working alongside our community and York Regional Police to help prevent crime and promote safety. Since 2012, I've witnessed firsthand the power of unity. Through our collective efforts, we have seen remarkable progress, particularly through initiatives like Neighborhood Watch Group. Bayview Hill stands as a shining example of what can be achieved when people come together for a common cause. What started as a small effort, led by 4 passionate neighborhood watch leaders, covering just 4 streets, has now expanded to encompass every street in Bayview Hill, with over 1,200 members and growing. This success story highlights the incredible strength of our community when we work together. And the neighborhood watch goes beyond just Bayview Hill. We have expanded to the area north of Major Mackenzie. In the past 6 years, we now have over 15 captains and hundreds of members in that area. And I would also like to acknowledge some of the captains who are with us today. From Bayview Hill, we have Mo, our facilitator today. Thank you. We have Adam, Peter, Rachel, who just arrived, David, and Stephen. And from the north of Major Mac area, we have Judy, we have Glenn and Sandy, Jay, Stephen, Amy, Anar, Kareem, Mona, Olivia, Helen, Rita, Robin, Julia, and Keith. Thank you so much. Being a neighborhood watch captain is no small task. It requires a deep commitment to the safety and well-being of our community. You have dedicated your time, energy, and resources to create a safe and more connected neighborhood. And for that, we are all deeply grateful. Thank you very much. Let's give them a big round of applause.
or to all our pastors. They're all volunteers.
So if you're interested in joining the Neighborhood Watch group and in your area, we'll provide you with more information later on in the meeting. So I'm excited for the conversation that will unfold today, and I look forward to the positive change we can achieve when we work hand in hand. So thank you once again for being here, and let's start our meeting and let's start our discussion. And I'll pass the mic to our MC today, Mr. Moji Wan, one of our Bayview Hill captains. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, Councillor Liu. Nobody calls me Mr., so thank you. So it's wonderful to see so many of you here today. You know, I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces, and some faces that I haven't seen in 25 years, and I had to remind him that we know each other. So thank you. You know, being part of Neighborhood Watch program has shown me firsthand what we can achieve as a community when we have to band together. It's a completely volunteer thing, but it's good for, it protects us all. We unite, and through that, we foster a sense of trust and collaboration. There is, speaking of familiar faces, hello, Mushtaq. I'm reminded of something Detective, if I get his title wrong, you will all have to forgive me, you can't tell him. Detective Sergeant Sherwin Bayview, is that his title? Yeah. He said something to me when he was in the area a long time ago, and he said, the best thing you can do is get to know your neighbors, right? And it's a bit of work. You have to knock on a lot of doors. Halloween is good for that. But get to know your neighbors and find out who they are. That's literally how we did it in our area. That's some good advice from Adam, one of our colleagues, which suggested, guys, Halloween is probably going to do this. One of the key things that come to mind when I think of our Neighborhood Watch program are community collaboration and unity, proactive crime prevention, and building trust and support. You know, we've had all kinds of interesting situations in Richmond Hill, but I can say firsthand that working very closely with the team at YRP, maybe we have the luxury in our region that we get so much connectivity. I mean, welcome to the safest room in your region, right? But I think it behoves us all to participate and get involved and be part of the solution. So I'm going to pass the mic now to someone who's, you know, the backbone of our program. So what we do is we lean a lot on Councillor Liu, and he becomes the voice of our program, but he needs a lot of support at the city. And this is where his worship, Mayor David West, comes in. And he's such a big proponent of our program, and he's so supportive. And I want to thank you and welcome you.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. And thank you to everybody that's in attendance tonight for coming out on this very, very cold evening tonight. I think this really does show the fact that, you know, people in Richmond Hill really do care about their community and really do care about where they live. And I, for one, can tell you, I really appreciate that. Everybody has been introduced, so I won't take up time to do that again, but I will just want to say thank you to Councillor Liu, for organizing this town hall. Councillor Liu, I've worked with him for a number of years, and he's been a very good advocate for his community. And he doesn't stray away from issues like this that need to be hit head on. Information needs to go out to their community. And this is very, very important in this particular case, especially in order to tackle some of the challenges with crime and safety that we have right now in our community. I won't get into it too much either, because Mo, you said a lot, and so did Councillor Liu, about the importance of Neighborhood Watch. And I want to again thank the people who are the captains and the leaders of the groups that are doing this. This is probably one of the lowest cost, probably most effective way of building a foundation in order that we can build on top of for community safety. So I do want to thank them and applaud the work that Neighborhood Watch is doing across our community. And again, I would also like very much to thank YRP and members that came out today. And this is really important. And I know, YRP is an organization that obviously does the things that they need to do to fight crime and keep our community safe, but they're also very, very good at getting out into the community and being a proactive part of the community. I kind of take it for granted that all police forces are all like that. And, me living in Richmond Hill my whole life, but I can tell you that they're not, and our force is probably the best, if not one of the best. Well, we'll say it's the best in doing that. And we really do appreciate that. It means a lot to our community. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the YRP. Just really quickly, because I don't want to cut into too much time, I just got a few comments. It is quite clear, and we spend an enormous amount of time on Richmond Hill Council thinking about and talking about and working with other parties to address some of the issues that we really didn't have like this a few years ago, but we certainly do now. Auto theft is an issue that is really very difficult, and it is not like auto theft a few years ago. I mean, this is primarily organized crime. The autos that are being taken are being used overseas. It's a business, and this really has to stop. It's about this time of year last year I attended on behalf of York Region the auto theft summit that we had in Ottawa. It was a good conversation, and it got the ball rolling, and all kinds of different parties came to the table to tackle this. But one of the things I would say that was really important that also came out of that was York Regional Police's program called AutoGuard. And AutoGuard was rolled out, I think, just before the Auto Summit, but it really was a task force that was designed to look at auto theft head on and to do all the complex things that need to be done in order to actually make a dent in that problem. And they have. I think auto thefts have been down about 30% year over year, but having said that, they're still too high. I mean, there's no question about that. I've talked to many mayors through the Ontario Big City Mayor Caucus, which I belong, and we all are dealing with exactly the same things in Southern Ontario. So, we are sharing information, police forces are sharing information, and we are working very hard. You'll hear more about that tonight. We've just unveiled not too long ago AutoGuard 2.0 to take further action, and I think that's really important. Also, we've had a real rise in types of crimes, break and enters, and those types of crimes, carjackings, and so on. And that's very concerning, because anybody that's a victim of any of those types of crime, I mean, it is deeply affecting us all. And I think that this is something why, as Chief MacSween has said a couple of years ago, I heard you, sir, say this, that, not only in our communities do we need to be safe, that's quite obvious, but we also need to feel safe. And that's part of the thing that's happening right now in Richmond Hill that really needs to change. And then finally, just before I step away here, I just wanted to say, we also, I know we're going to probably be talking about crime a lot tonight, and that's great because we need to talk about that. But I do want to mention too that Richmond Hill Council for the longest time has also taken road safety very seriously. And on a motion that I put forward a couple of years ago, actually, we've now got a plan in place to look at the roads that are in Richmond Hill and look at them carefully through the lens of traffic engineering to make sure that we're doing the right thing to address whatever problems exist on our roads. I mean, we're not there yet. We'll probably never reach that destination fully, but we are working very quickly to put the right tools in place to deal with these types of problems as well. So I'll leave it at that. I thank everybody again for being here, particularly on a night like this. It really is something that we need to deal with as a community, and we need to be working together. And this room here today shows a willingness to do that. So I just thank you very much for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor West. We're lucky to have you. That's all I can say. I know that we, ever since you've taken over, it's just for us, for me personally, for my family, thank you very much. Just before we move on, I want to take a quick moment for some quick housekeeping and give you a very high-level idea of the agenda. There is going to be an opportunity for Q&A further down. We have a very detailed presentation by the YRP team. And looking at the questions that the community has submitted,
so many of the questions are actually answered in the presentation. And so I'm hoping, we're all hoping that sort of, helps you gain that information that you've all been asking for. So that's number one. When we do the Q&A, we'll set up a mic somewhere. Yeah, okay, thank you. And hopefully we can wrap it up around 9:30. But if we don't, we can have a chat about maybe a next meeting to be scheduled. On that note, Councillor Liu stole the thunder when he said that this gentleman is actually one of the originals of the neighborhood watch programs, and Chief MacSween, without your help, 10 years ago? I forgot it was 10 years ago. Peter had to remind me how old I was. You were there, and you're still here, and it's just fantastic. So, I'd love to have you come up. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. I want to start by thanking the mayor and both Castro and the mayor for their leadership here in the city. Obviously, I know everyone on the panel very well. We've got representatives from the federal government, the provincial government, bylaw. So we're going to tackle this conversation tonight together. There are some things I do want to put out front that might answer some of your questions as well. And then I'm going to turn it right over to the team to take you through the presentation. So I want to speak about what our organization has done at the provincial federal level about some of the concerns the community has brought forward. And the mayor already touched on it. And I too was with the mayor in Ottawa when we were there presenting to the federal government. And I was there with a number of other chiefs and the commissioner of the OPP. And we were talking very frankly about what the problems are and the challenges are with auto theft. And one of them being that the cars are being smuggled out of the country, and we have a porous border, and in many cases, those vehicles were in the Port of Montreal. So there's been a lot of work with the auto industry, the insurance bureau, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing those numbers come down in terms of auto theft. What sometimes happens, though, for every action, there's a reaction, and then your carjackings tend to go up, which we have seen play out a bit. And we're tackling that problem as well, and we can talk a little bit more about that. And I can assure you that York Regional Police, specifically all of your team here from 2 District, that your concerns are being taken seriously, and they are working very diligently to put resources in place, as we have with Regional Council this year, on one of the biggest budgets we've ever had in the history of York Region, to put another 154 members in the organization, some on the front line, some back office staff, some in investigations, that all are strategically placed to help combat some of these issues that we're talking about. I know some of the issues you want to talk about. The mayor already talked about it, the rise in crime, break-and-enters, increased break-and-enters, something that is really important to me, and I'm sure it's important to you because it is playing out in our streets day in and day out, and it's related to bail. And we are still seeing this happen over and over and over again, where we have violent crime and gun crimes and people that are committing those crimes out on the streets, out on 1, 2, 3, sometimes 10 different bails. That should never be happening, right? So we got to figure out how we're going to tackle that problem. We have done some work. They have done some work at the federal level with Bill C-48, but there's a lot more still has to be done because it's not playing out the way it should at the grassroots level in the courts, and these people are being spun right back out into the community again, re-victimizing and re-traumatizing people. And we're very alive to that, and we're lobbying quite heavily on this. And I could tell you, when I was the president of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, it was one of our number 1 priorities at the time, and still is. And I'm still a member of the OACP, so we're having that discussion. And now with probably an election coming very shortly, with another mandate, a big part of that will be, what are we going to put on the plates of all of the elected officials to reprioritize some of these things, so we can see this play out in the way it should, so you're all feeling safe, as the mayor said, and we actually see public safeties increase. So we're going to be speaking to many of your questions tonight. I did see the questions, and I know the presentation is going to address it. I don't want to take too much time up, but I do want to talk about a few things we did lobby for. With respect to combating motor vehicle theft and organized crime, we did advocate, as I mentioned, to the Government of Canada and MTO, CBSA, advocating for further resources across the board for auto theft in relation to multi-provincial strategies that allow people to see vehicle registration numbers across the country versus province to province. Because if you move a car from one province to the other and it gets re-registered, previously there was no way to track that VIN, so it would look like a new vehicle potentially. That's changed. Some changes have been made, and that all is part of those lobbying efforts that have been going on. We are going to talk about the provincial bail compliance dashboard, which allows us as police to monitor people who are out on bail for firearms related offenses and improves information sharing across the GTA and across actually the province. This is a really significant piece of software and tool for every police service in the province of Ontario, including us here in the York region, to be using, so we can manage those offenders that are out on bail in a better way, in a more effective way, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we're also advocating for stricter bail laws, which we think there's some enhancements that should be done there. And local level here in York region, we are truly, I would say in the country, and if not this province, ourselves, Toronto Police, the OPP, and Peel are probably leading the charge in terms of advocating for all police services across this province. Because if we don't have the resources and the people that have the biggest voice and represent the biggest communities like yourselves at the table, we don't want to fall on deaf ears. And I can tell you, there's a lot being done, but there's a lot more to be done. And just in the last week, at the local level here in York region, I can just tell you a couple of things, and then I'm going to go right over to the team here. We've highlighted successful investigations that have led to several arrests and property recovered, including our Integrated Property Crime Task Force have charged 3 suspects and recovered property in a project called Project Kona, an investigation into a series of residential break-and-enters across York region and the GTA. We just wrapped up a project called Project Sunset, campaign aimed at combating residential break-and-enters in the city of Markham. This project resulted in a 25% decrease in residential break-and-enters between 2023 and 2024. And just this past May, we released the results of Operation Strike Plate, aimed at deterring suspects from residential break-and-enters in the south end of the region. And this operation resulted in the arrest of 24 individuals, 53 charges, and more than 3,000 door stoppers or strike plates were distributed on the crime prevention side to secure front doors for added protection for your residences. And during the period of the project, there was a 20% reduction in break-and-enters between the same time frame, 23-24. So I will just tell you that there's a number of other initiatives that are underway and are likely planned right now. We're in the early stages of the year for this year. I do want to touch on Auto Guard because I think that's a great example of how crime prevention pays off. So this is a project that, and I know the mayor spoke to it, the mayor's a big proponent of this project, really driven by the members, but it really has a crime prevention piece to it. And when you think about auto theft, traditionally, I'll say traditional police work would have had us, cars get stolen, we do an investigation, potentially we get onto a group of people that are stealing cars, we target them, we investigate them, and we hold them accountable and arrest them, right? But that doesn't help us prevent those crimes from happening in the first place. What Auto Guard did was it allowed us to be proactive and understand where the highest proponent of or potential collection of stolen vehicles might be found anywhere in the region using a data-driven approach and go out and target those areas with crime prevention efforts. So people knew how to better protect themselves, had a huge reduction in people's cars being stolen, and actually we saw a significant uptick in our arrests in that project. And I know our team got recognized at the International Association of Chiefs for that project because it's a completely different way of looking at auto theft. That's non-traditional, and that's why we're replicating it again in Auto Guard 2.0, and we'll likely see this continue as long as this trend continues. I'll leave it there. I'll turn it over to the team. They'll take you through the presentation, and we will definitely answer any questions you have at the end here. Okay? Thank you so much.
So just before the presentation, I'll invite Superintendent Phil to come up and share a few thoughts, and then we flip to the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Superintendent Ian Hill. I'm the commander at 2 District. And on behalf of York Regional Police, Chief MacSween, Deputy De Silva, and everyone from 2 District, we want to thank Mayor West and Castro Liu and the entire Richmond Hill Council for having us here today. We're extremely thankful for the great relationship we have and will continue to have with this council. They are very supportive of YRP and everything it does. Our commitment today with the community has never been more important than now. I mentioned this at one of our last town halls about not only is the impact of the crime that's been going on in our region, like something that the police are really concerned about, but as a citizen myself, I live in the region, it comes to my heart how badly it impacts us. So you have to understand that the police that work here, a lot of them live here too. And it's very, very important to them, not as officers, but also citizens. And so that's one thing for me, it's a very personal thing. That's something I have in my heart every day. And it happened to me recently, just back at the end of the summer, where my neighbor came out and he had a new car and he pulled it in his driveway and he's looking at a sidewalk and he noticed something on the road. And he's looking at that and he talks to the other neighbor who happens to be a police officer as well. And he's looking down, there's an air tag on the ground. He's like, what's this? So it happens, it turns out that he may have had an air tag put on his brand new car down in the city. So that's where you start to think, like, it's not that we're police officers, we're also citizens here. Like, how could this be happening in my community? Then it really makes your mind think about what are we doing and what am I going to do to make this better? So that's sort of from a personal perspective how I look at it. And that's how much more this means to me in that aspect. So again, I'd like to introduce the team from 2 District. It was already mentioned, Inspector Colin Alexander, Detective Sergeant Jason Dinsmore, Detective Sergeant Jason Jackson, and at the back, Constable Mo Chung. So those are your main conduits for any information you want to speak to of. Mo is one of our community house to talk about any you want to talk about security. So I invite you to speak to him at the end of the presentation if you have any concerns specifically about your residents. So there have been a number of questions that have come up online. So our goal here tonight is to answer as much as we can in this presentation. If there's more questions at the end, by all means, please ask. But hopefully we've covered off a lot of the big things that you may be asking and wondering yourself. So I'm just going to go to the very first slide. So knowing that time is of the essence, I'm going to start on a high-level picture of the frontline resources at 2 District. So right now in Richmond Hill and 2 District, oh, sorry, let's switch on you. Slide 3. There we go. So in 2 District, which encompasses part of Thornhill, Vaughan, and Markham, but predominantly most of the vehicles are in Richmond Hill, there are 20 vehicles, patrol vehicles, marked cars driving those borders at any given time. But in the support of the 2025 budget, we've added one more car to that area. So we now have 21 vehicles that will be patrolling all these areas throughout the evening, throughout the day, throughout the afternoon. But that's not just it. There's other vehicles out there. We have investigative units, plainclothes cars, tactical units, K9, the YRP helicopter, mental health support teams, traffic enforcement units, sometimes crowd management units, and even, when required, the Marine unit. So you're not always seeing what YRP has out there. And all these services, all these assets are something that protects and looks after Richmond Hill. So I'm going to turn it over now to Detective Sergeant Dinsmore, and he's going to speak to you about person crimes, investigative updates, and things that may be of interest to you right now. So Jason.
I'm just going to take a walk over here. Thank you, Super. I'd like to thank the mayor, all the politicians, deputy, chief, inspector, and Super, and JJ, my partner, will be speaking shortly after me. Wanted to start by just a little introduction about our office, because sometimes when we deal with our community members, they just don't understand maybe the operations of the place. And obviously we can only be as transparent as we can with the line of work we're in. But I work in our criminal investigative bureau, and I manage our office on the person side of things. Every district in York Region has a criminal investigative bureau, which are investigators that are solely assigned for investigating crimes after frontline deals with original calls. And JJ will speak to the property side of things. That's his role. Persons crime, it's just that. It's crimes related to persons, whether they be assaults, domestic violence, harassments, threats. Anything that falls within that mandate would be something that falls within my office and our investigators. JJ will speak to his side, which is thefts of vehicles, break and enters, anything that's related to property. So before we get to the slides, I just wanted to say that, you know, just like what my super said, I do have a passion for criminal investigations, criminal work, holding people accountable for their actions, and a safe community. I started my career here in Richmond Hill in 1999. I've been on and off working in Richmond Hill for about 18 years now. I actually lived in Richmond Hill when I started my career. I still live in the region. So I have a soft spot in my heart for Richmond Hill, and I appreciate everyone that's come here tonight for your engagement, because when we undertake investigations, it's the community involvement, whether they be business partners or community members in neighborhoods. And I've been at a few events here for Neighborhood Watch with Mo, and actually met Mo Jawan just in person for the first time. We talked on and off 3 years ago for an incident he had in his neighborhood. So it's amazing how you network and you get to see the involvement through your engagement of neighbors and community members. So appreciate for everyone being here, and we'll start the slide. I know JJ's got a few more updates as far as the property crime goes. They seem to undertake more projects that end up being longer in nature, where persons crime deals with more, I'd say more serious type incidents, but they're short, and sometimes can go long, but they don't turn into maybe necessarily project-based work. So I'm just gonna start with a sensitive case that came to our community about 3 years ago, and that was with Elnaz Haj Tamiri. So I just wanted to bring it up because, you know, a few years ago it wasn't in the news for good reason. We know Elnaz was assaulted in her underground in Richmond Hill here, and a few months after that, which was in 2021, she disappeared from up in Wasaga Beach. So I put this on our slide because, you know, it's a sensitive matter, and it hit the community hard, and we did a lot of press releases and live media coverage of that at the time. And it's just some things that are coming up in that investigation now. Unfortunately, you know, we're still working with Elnaz and her family and dealing with the matters that are coming up. But I can tell you, one of the male suspects, who was our main suspect in the assault in Richmond Hill, he was arrested over 2 years ago now. He's been in custody the entire time, and he has his trial coming up in March of this year in Newmarket. So I just wanted to keep the community informed on that, because it did receive a lot of attention about 3 years ago. One of the main suspects as well, ex-boyfriend of Elnaz, Mohammed Lilu, he's been in custody as well for over 2 years, and that's an OPP-led investigation, but I wanted to just, again, bring that up because we worked alongside of them at that time, and he's also set for his trial in April of 2025 up in South Simcoe. And the next two slides I have are they kind of coincide with one another, but I'm sure not far from here, people have heard the incidents we've had at the cinema, at the East Beaver Creek area at York Cinema. So I'm going to give just a quick update on that and kind of how that all transpired throughout the year 2024 and some of the good work from our officers and the community on some positive results of that investigation. So this all started, prior to this, there wasn't really a whole lot going on in the York Boulevard area as far as this type of crime, but suddenly on January 24th of 2024, we did have a rash of shootings at Cineplex theaters in the GTA, as well as York Cinemas in Richmond Hill. So that investigation was not something we see every day, and it was something that seemed targeted. And after working with other police services, within days of this happening, we realized we were dealing with the same suspects that had targeted these theaters, in particular one here in Richmond Hill. From our office, we were proactive in that, in dealing with the other police agencies. It became the lead agency in managing these shootings, trying to find out the people that were one, a motive for what they were doing, and who was responsible for doing it, just due to the violent nature of the brazen crime of just coming up to the front doors of these theaters and shooting at them. So 2CIB here in Richmond Hill took ownership of that, working with the other police agencies. A team was formed from all investigators here in Richmond Hill that work out of our district, and they spent many hours and days and months leading a project, working with the community, business owners, other police agencies, to come up with some good results. And about 4 months into the investigation, I can tell you that as of today, we've arrested 2 people responsible for those shootings on January 24th. One of them still being in custody for those shootings that happened. And in total, 42 criminal charges were laid. The other fellow is currently out on bail, and both are awaiting trial. So that's kind of the first occurrence we had on January 24th that we didn't realize would continue throughout the year. But I'll let JJ switch over and we'll just kind of recap the second part to this. So the May long weekend of 2024, we seem to have another startup of the shootings. I believe it was May 29th on a Friday evening that we had the front doors of the cinema shot at. And shortly, I think it was 2 days after, on the Sunday of the same long weekend, it was targeted again. So that business, that premise, that area falls within 2 district in our Criminal Investigative Bureau and our mandate for the investigations we undertake. And I can tell you at that time, again, our office was diligent and proactive in putting in a solely investigative team assigned to the shootings. They were working hard, and we didn't know what was going to come of those, but eventually within weeks we had more shootings. So we were happy with the fact that we had set up a team, that we were proactive, we were engaging our community members and business owners to start working this file. And we had a few more shootings, and there was actually a shooting at a school that was after hours. And at the end of the day, they all ended up being linked together. But I can tell you, it was a 2-district Richmond Hill led investigation that again worked with a lot of different police agencies, law enforcement agencies, community partners. And just in last probably 2 months ago, late fall, I can tell you that in all, there was total 5 people arrested for those shootings, 4 of them at the theater on top of January 24th, and 1 at the school. So in total, 116 criminal offense charges were laid there. Those 3 male youths are still in custody, awaiting the trial as well. So I just wanted to give some updates on those, because those, especially the cinemas, have been a hot topic in 2024. I'll let JJ speak to his side of things and his investigations, but I'd just like to finish and say by thanking everyone, and all these investigations from our aspect is through working with the community. So whether they be with business owners with video surveillance cameras that are willing to assist us and provide us those tapes or DVRs or what they may be, or neighborhood people that have cameras or independent witnesses, we pretty much are limited on what we can solve without community help and assistance. So thank you for your time. I'll turn it over to JJ and let him update on the proper side of things.
Thanks, Dindy, and again, welcome everybody. Just to continue on with the thanks. Jason Jackson, I work on the property crime side of the detective office, and I recognize definitely a few of the faces here from our previous meetings and community crime prevention aspects. So thanks to the community for coming out on definitely one of the coldest nights of the year, but definitely a special thanks to our Neighborhood Watch group of friends, because the information that comes out from here goes out through the community, mainly by the people and the special commitment that they have to come forward themselves and act as representatives from their community. So big thanks to the Community Watch Group, and we'll talk about a few things here. When we're talking about property crime aspect, we're talking about the things that are affecting, like our auto theft, break and enters. Our office deals with the frauds, mischiefs, and a whole variance of things. Unfortunately, there's probably a greater chance of individuals within the community that will be a victim of some respect when we talk about property crime, whether it be credit card fraud, mischief, or a variety of other things, as opposed to the other side of the detective office, which is the person's crime. Regardless, the occurrences come in, and we work quite diligently with our partners, and we do see tremendous support, not only from the province, our policing partners, the municipality, and as well as definitely the local citizens, because not every police jurisdiction has the benefit or the ability to have the community come forward and provide a lot of good information and the information to go back out. We always say that crime prevention is a shared responsibility. We'll get to that in definitely some other slides, but what that really means is a partnership. We put the information out there, we do the crime prevention techniques, we're doing the enforcement portion, and we're providing the community different techniques to be able to help what we say in the business, kind of target harden, prevent their vulnerabilities onto themselves and take ownership of their security dynamics. So the information that goes out here through the neighborhood watch groups is definitely beneficial to everybody else. Thank you for putting that out. We're going to continue to talk about a few things. So looking at things here, we have home invasions and break and enters, and specifically talking about Richmond Hill area. And these are for both completed and attempted offenses. And for people's reference that aren't familiar with a lot of our terms within the criminal manner with the violence aspect to it. Break and enter is occurring when people are breaking into the house, traditionally during what we see as the hours of time frame between 5 at night until 9 o'clock at night. The criminal aspect is looking to capitalize the idea that people aren't paying attention around those times between 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock, where they're able to exploit people that are away from their homes, climbing into backyards, looking for houses that, you know, the snow has not been cleared, and looking to capitalize on. And property crime, as we know, is crimes of opportunity. And as much as we're putting that back out, the crime prevention, which is very, very heavy focus in any of our projects we're doing, whether it's auto theft, break and enters, crime prevention is a very, very heavy component. As the chief and the mayor definitely have said, when we're going forward into any of our projects now, as a template, whether it's Auto Guard, whether it's the B&E task force, whatever it is, there's a very, very heavy crime prevention component to help safeguard the people and the citizens so that they can do that security aspect for their own properties. So as we're looking at the numbers, when things plateau coming out of the COVID years, things start to kind of ratchet back up. Some of that obviously by is recidivism, by people that are already out on bail, we do see, and we have those arrests through some of our projects. But as people are away from their homes for periods of time, and during this time of year when people are out traveling, the people that are doing the criminal work for break and enters are looking to exploit that. So as we talk about some of the numbers with here, we're also going to talk about some of the projects and results that we have to capitalize and reflect on the good work that's been done with the partnership with the communities, as Jason Dinsmore said, but we can't do things alone. The enforcement aspect has to come with the support from the community, that engagement aspect, but also the crime prevention thing. So we've asked and we've reviewed some of the questions, and as the superintendent said, we'll try to get through as many of the questions within the presentation to kind of answer a couple of things that I'm sure people have a lot of concerns on. Moving into carjacking and theft of vehicle trends. Again, carjacking it's a theft of vehicle with the act of violence within there. And any of these things where you're talking home invasions or carjackings, these are crimes that are directed are important crimes to us that we're investigating. It's the prime directive of our office when we're talking auto thefts and carjackings, whatever, to be on those occurrences because they're definitely important. So we cannot let those individuals continue with that rash of crimes because they will continue. As we look at the numbers from 2023 into 2024, we see the 30% decrease in auto theft. And that's not just attributed to just enforcement numbers. When we look at the numbers coming out of Auto Guard, both 1 and 2, that's a reflection, and what I believe in speaking with our crime prevention partners in our command. It's also a reflection of the good work that's been put in by the community to start addressing a lot of their own vulnerabilities. There's certain things we're going to get through a couple of the crime prevention techniques that people can be doing on their own for auto theft or for break and enters. And we're seeing that number in combination with enforcement strategy is helping to drive that down. But we can't take our foot off of that issue. We need to continue with that. Because if we let that go, those numbers will go back up again. So looking at some of the different projects, definitely within the win category and the positive results. So as the chief had said, between 2023 and 2024, we had started with the Auto Guard projects, 1.0 and 2.0. So these were kind of the templates. Projects started at the localized level here between what we say 2, 4, and 5 district, or Richmond Hill, Vaughan, and Markham, to address auto theft across the region. And that came originally with a crime prevention component, where we did see people out there with the Faraday bags coming from the different districts. And actually, out of curiosity, how many people here have heard about Auto Guard? Yeah. I know a lot of people, definitely from the community watch and neighborhood watch, we're putting the information in. So this is definitely a win category, because the template that went on for this went on to different jurisdictions across the GTA when it started, and the crime prevention is what really drove the other half of this beyond the enforcement. We partnered with Equite Insurance, who is kind of the overall arching insurance company that sees the trends within the industry and reports back to government and police about different trends. What our pattern was for Auto Guard was definitely something that they were very supportive of. They were supportive of partners, and everything that we're doing for Auto Guard 2.0, which started in the fall of 2024 and just wrapped up about a month ago, was supported by Equite for what we wanted to do next, which was to go further into the community. We recognize that not everybody contacts or looks at YRP, Twitter, or CTV News, or whatever, but we have diverse language communities here within the region. So part of our campaign during Auto Guard 2.0 was to make sure that we're connecting with those diverse language communities here within York region, so that people are understanding across the board the crime prevention techniques and some of the issues facing with respect to auto theft and break and enters. So through that, between the two projects, we had 73 people arrested for a total of 411 charges. 94 vehicles were recovered at a well cost of $5.6 million. Again, this represented a 30% decrease in auto theft across the region, but this could not have been done, in our belief, without the crime prevention that a lot of the citizens put in. They're taking that vulnerability away so that the criminals can't capitalize on that. The crimes of opportunity, which is, again, what we said is how a lot of these guys operate. The carjacking team, speaking with my partners on the other end, so not only do we have our localized investigators here in the detective office here within Richmond Hill, we also have specialized carjacking teams that work specifically to address these carjacking thieves that are operating throughout the GTA that come in and out. We see that a lot of the people, whether it's break and enters or auto theft, or individuals or groups, organized in structure, and they're potentially also operating from different areas in the GTA coming into our area to commit the crimes. So we need the assistance of some of these specialized teams to operate outside of the scheme of Richmond Hill, work with other jurisdictions. And they're actually coming out with quite good results. They've had 22 people arrested with 85 charges just in the last several months. So that's a definite a win, because the people that are committing the carjackings with violence, they need to be before the course and to stop the progress of the criminality. Our auto cargo theft unit results multiple projects over the past year, with 32 people arrested for which were participating, excuse me, in the organized auto theft groups. Over 400 charges and 200 vehicles recovered at a value of $18 million. So significant impact and dense. And when our auto cargo theft unit, again, this is more specialized units where they're able to look at different groups that are operating outside of just Richmond Hill, or are involved in the process of moving cars through shipping containers and transferring cars either in or out of the GTA. So it's taking it at a different level. So between Auto Guard, the carjacking team, auto cargo theft units, it's definitely driving an impact, but it can't just be just that, the enforcement portion alone. The crime prevention piece is integral to that. As the chief had mentioned in reference to strike plate, that was another project in 2024 that ran through, of course, the south end of the region that we had here. Our teams were involved in that, and that helped result in 25 people with 54 charges for break and enters across our local area. Excuse me. Project Dusk, residential break and enter project team. 5 groups were disrupted and 19 people arrested with 194 charges for break and enters going across our area. So definitely impacts. Does anyone had seen any of these on some of the recent media releases? Show of hands. Yeah, I know our neighborhood watch group guys are for sure. We definitely encourage that. I'll get to that in another slide in the future. When our project teams or when our detectives are out, we're making some of the arrests for individuals that are committing the crimes. They're quite often coming across either by when they're conducting search warrants or when they're arresting these people at the time, they're coming across a large amount of say jewelry, watches, what have you. And we're putting that information out on linkage pages through our media releases because we need the assistance quite often from people that have had the crimes or break-in enters against them. We have a tough time trying to figure out who a lot of this property belongs back to. So if you have definitely been a victim of any type of break and enter, please pay attention to the social media that we're putting out, our crime media releases that we're doing when we're making the arrests, because sometimes there's a linkage saying that we've recovered this property and we're trying to figure out how to make the pieces to go back to where the rightful owners are. It's very difficult sometimes when it's a gold ring. A gold ring is a gold ring. But a lot of times we do find things that are very specific, and we need just to be able to track backwards to figure out where this person had this item belonging to back to the house. It helps with our investigation, it helps with the charges. It definitely helps with the neighborhood watch groups that are getting things together to help us put that message out. Beyond all these other things, Project Booster was an organized retail theft investigation. Part of our thing that we've been working on is changing the narrative of things. Whether it's here, whether it's locally, whether it's auto theft, changing that narrative, it just cannot be, oh, well, it's just property crime, it's not that important. Well, it's the same sort of thing even at the organized retail theft level. It's not just shoplifting. When we have individuals that are making, using theft as a mechanism to steal high quantity amounts of merchandise from stores, it's very impactful to our businesses here there locally. We know that our businesses here within the area of Richmond Hill are the breadbasket of the community. So we're not only are we working in the residential factor, but we're also working on the business end of things to make sure our businesses are looked after, because organized retail theft, not many businesses, whether at the corporate level or the localized level, can survive when the impact is $10,000, $10,000, $10,000. So out of that, through that project that ran and addressed people that were coming into the area that were doing organized retail theft using booster kits to steal from our stores. We had 88 people that arrested for 169 charges, and $333,000 worth of merchandise was recovered from the individuals that were doing a lot of the theft. So those are from some of the recent definite successes from our projects and investigations over 2024 that mainly deal with property crime that's going on localized here within the community, but also extending back out. So make no mistake though, there's still much more work to do. A drop, as I said, dropping 30% in crime for auto theft. That could be potentially only temporary if the enforcement as well as the crime prevention is not being continued on both sides. So I mentioned the crime prevention, the shared responsibility, that it's our belief, our direct focus, that crime prevention is a partnership between the community and the police. The focus is to empower citizens with guidance and knowledge so they can take ownership of their security and help build a resiliency to the effects of crime. And that is something we're going to continue to do as we focus on different things. We talk crime prevention. So some of the different things we're doing here definitely locally is we have our business manager crime trend sharing networks to put information back out to different businesses that are affected by property crime. We have our SEPTED programs and residential and business up, where we have Mo Chong from our crime prevention unit that works very diligently to help the businesses out for that. He's available after the fact to discuss if there's any type of questions in regards to your own property or business. The home security camera registry, our neighborhood watch groups, which we discussed earlier on, our community data safety portal, which will come up in another slide, and the steps to auto theft to break and enter prevention. Auto guard, so crime prevention. So this is definitely a big thing that was supported by the industry as well as our agency partners and policing partners. We found that doing these 6 steps help drive down the potential for and the vulnerabilities for people to be committing acts of auto theft against individuals in the community. The big one here is do not leave valuables in the vehicle. I would probably say that is one that sees the most amount of reports of property crime through our area. It's the people that leave valuables within their vehicle. Gold bars, money, thousands of dollars left on passenger seats of vehicle unlocked overnight in the driveway. We see a lot more than that than we do of anything with auto theft. So that installing GPS tracking devices, cameras for outdoor security for the home, steering using a steering wheel lock, putting key fobs and Faraday bags away from the front door, and parking in the garage are most of those things are free things that people could be doing to cut down on the vulnerability, the accessibility, be potentially a victim of auto theft. Crime prevention for break and enters. There's 6 steps that our organization has put together to be put back out to the community. That we believe, again, it cuts down the possibility, the potential to criminals that are seeking to exploit the vulnerabilities in the community for break and enters to do. Installing security cameras, making sure that the front door and areas around the front of the buildings or your residence are trimmed so that there's a clear view. Close and lock all doors and windows. Store your valuables somewhere else and where they may not be expected to be. We see many of the break and enters residentially where we see valuables where you expect to see them. It's in a nightstand, it's on a jewelry box right beside where it's easy to access. If you definitely have valuables of things of personal nature, please locate different areas in the house to hold this, because these guys that are coming in, they're working on a time clock while they're in there. As much as we can do to disrupt and to safeguard those important things, please do. Know your neighbors, as was mentioned right at the beginning by Mo. It really works. We noticed that, especially this time of year, we have a lot of people traveling. It's the holiday season for various things, starting at the beginning of December, when people are traveling away. Criminals are exploiting the residences that don't have the snow shoveled. It looks like it's dark for several days at a time. They're looking to exploit those residences. Knowing your neighbors or having someone check on the residence while you're away, it's definitely key, and it helps drive down that vulnerability. And register your cameras on our camera registry. Oops. Crime prevention, I'm just going to talk very generically in regards to carjacking and towards home invasion. There's no clear one size fits all for protection in regards to this. Locations of concern for definitely for carjackings are driveways, parking lots, gas stations, and being stopped at road intersections. This is where if someone was intent to do something for a carjacking, the most vulnerable area is probably somewhere around here. Our recommendations would be definitely to park in well-lit areas or in your garage. Don't get boxed in around areas when you're coming up to lights or amongst other cars. It's easier said than done, obviously. But we have seen occurrences where people have tried to tap the back end of a car so that it forces the people out of the car to come look at the back of the car, but an accident, someone comes around, gets in the car and leaves. So there are these little scams that people can do to try to these carjackings, and it's exploiting vulnerabilities on people, right? Trust your instincts, be aware of your surroundings. That's definitely one thing. If you think you're being followed, definitely go to a place of safety, contact us, anything. If it's something that's concerning or your safety is in danger, 911, please do, and let us know what the problem is, and we're definitely there to help. But most important beyond all this, because things are very dynamic within this, is The vehicle can be replaced, but you and your family are definitely irreplaceable, right? That's always in the back of your mind, right? And how we do business. Yes, the criminal code section 34 does provide reasonable use of force and resist assaults and defend yourself. But the types of crimes and stuff are definitely dynamic. And when people are coming into your house, what we're seeing for anything with home invasions, it's usually targeted why they're going in there. It's not just necessarily when they're trying to break in for keys. If they're trying to break in for keys, they're trying to get in and get out very quickly and not have any type of engagement with the homeowner because they are on themselves the clock. So that's what we do see definitely more of is people trying to get in and flee, or with break and enters. They don't want to be around and engaging with the homeowners because that puts them at a bit of a deficiency for time. But definitely overall, our message is that you and your family are definitely the important ones, and to definitely put them first in what you're doing. As we said, community safety is a shared responsibility. I talk a little bit about the community safety map, and there's some linkages here. Curious here again, show of hands. Has anyone logged on to our community data safety portal? Yeah, okay, good. A few people, excellent. Yeah, we're liking it. It's definitely part of our thing. We talk about crime prevention is empowering knowledge, because good information goes out, bad information goes out through the community. We do see sometimes where people are talking on whatever platforms of social media that they hear about this happened in the community, this happened in the community. This is an empowering tool to help provide context to the community as to what is actually happening localized. There is the next training session that's coming up on Thursday, January 23rd for our organization puts on for people to get a bit of training to kind of play with this. You feel free to go into it. You won't break it. It's definitely a great tool to use to see what the types of crimes are that are going on within the area. It's very generic. It doesn't provide data on or information on people. There's obviously a privacy thing, but you can have a better understanding of what's happening within your community to give you that next sense of empowerment. That also leads me to discuss a little bit about the security camera registry. So what that does is it provides it's a registry list that's accessible only to us as the police, to the homeowners with active recording cameras. So when we do have crimes that are occurring in an area, it helps cut down our canvas time when we're going around trying to figure out who may or may not have active cameras. There's a lot of people that have dummy cameras or cameras that don't record, or the quality is not good, or it's still an old VHS. I think we still run into a few of those once in a while. And the police will come to seek permission from the homeowner to attend and review the footage. It does help identify suspects in crimes quicker to help our investigations along, to do that crime and prevention and safety strategy for the public. What it does not, the registry is not accessible by the public and is confidential. It does not provide police or others the ability to remotely access your security cameras. The registry is a database-only application. There's definitely no commitment, and you can withdraw from the registry at any point. But it is something good. We've always talked about that with our crime prevention strategy and any of your community engagement meetings. You can find that definitely at yrp.ca for the registry. Coming into our last slides here, the Community Safety Neighborhood Watch Group. This is definitely a map. Has anyone seen this map before? This is, yeah, a few people. Yeah, so you can see some of the local people or the local groups here just within the south and north and the east, west sides of Bayview groups here. You can see some of the people that are involved, and it's not a great catch. You can see their contacts. Thank you to those groups. I will give you just a very quick story as to about a year and a little bit ago, we had a rash of Canada Post mailbox thefts that were kind of plaguing the area. And this is definitely one of the areas. And it was through the assistance of working with the neighborhood watch groups that helped it resolve that. We had a couple of people in custody because I know Adam, speaking with Adam from the South Bay Hill Neighborhood Watch Group, provided a lot of information assistance from the various people in the community to help put the information together to figure out who was committing that crime. So thank you very much. Thank you to the community. I would just like to say on behalf of everybody, please round of applause for our neighborhood watch group, because they do a fantastic that I know have definitely supported us and definitely have helped us in many investigations. And Deputy De Silva is speaking.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'll just touch on one aspect of one of the questions that was presented through the community, and that is on CCTV. If you're not aware, York Regional Police in 2024, through grant funding through the provincial government, embarked on police CCTV cameras across York Region. The goal within those cameras were to actually deter, prevent, and actually solve crimes through the use of police closed circuit cameras. In Richmond Hill, there are 2 fixed cameras, one at Yonge and Crosby and one at Yonge and 16th. And we used to have one right in front of the York Cinema that was obviously to combat some of the violence that we were seeing. Those CCTV cameras are, they're basically put in an area based on data. We create heat maps, and based on those heat maps, we identify certain geographic locations that would benefit and obviously warrant a camera. So some of the questions were, can we have some different cameras within the actual neighborhood? What I could share with you is through analysis we do every single year, we actually are increasing the number of cameras in 2025, once again through provincial grant money that we have from the province. So if an area is identified and it warrants a camera, then we will actually install a police CCTV camera to combat some of the either violence or property crimes that we see in the area. The one thing that we are going to do in 2025 that is actually very innovative, it's not something that anyone is doing currently. We are partnering with one of our agencies from a technology standpoint. If you are unaware, all of our police cars have ALPR technology, and that really stands for automatic license plate reader technology. So all of our frontline officers, when they're driving in and around the community, they can actually get a hit on stolen vehicles, unlicensed drivers, vehicles that are out on bail with certain individuals. So that gives your officers obviously the awareness that certain types of crimes are happening. What we're going to do with CCTV in 2025, and the first that I know of across this province and across Canada, we are going to tie in our CCTV cameras with what's called a hot list. And that hot list is held by the province. It's the same technology that's in our cars. But what's going to end up happening is if a vehicle crosses any one of our CCTV cameras across the region, it'll actually alert our real-time operations center, which is located in headquarters. That stolen vehicle, if it goes through that camera, we will get alert and we will get a dispatch in terms of actually being proactive and going towards that area and looking for those vehicles. So we've seen a rash of jewelry store robberies throughout, obviously not only the GTA, but this technology is going to be very beneficial in terms of our malls, our communities. Most of the crime that we're actually seeing involves stolen vehicles. So if we are proactive in our approach, we will then be able to sort of deter, prevent, and maybe even apprehend these criminals while they're actually caught in the act. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that. And I believe one more, sorry. Okay, go ahead, Jason.
Thanks, Deputy. One more thing to mention is the chief was starting on talking about the provincial bail database dashboard that we're working on with the province. So that's a continuing factor. It's something that's supported by the province and it's down through the OPP in Toronto, and York has definitely partnered with that with some of the other GTA agencies. Beyond that dashboard, which is looking after some of the recidivism with high-risk offenders and the ones that have been arrested for previous gun violence before, we also are doing localized at our level to be checking up on the individuals that are already out on bail. So we have our officers that are going out doing bail enforcement checks on the individuals that are out on release orders to make sure they're abiding about what they're supposed to be doing. So they're not out there doing the things like committing the break-and-enters and auto theft. So that's definitely one thing. We've gone one further to also make sure, and that's supported from definitely our leadership team down, is so when we have individuals that are out on outstanding warrants and think that well, it's only property crime. They're not going to chase me to Quebec, but they're from Quebec. We are coming for them as well. We are enforcing, making sure that we're going to collectively, we have worked partnerships with the Quebec police and Montreal police to make sure that people that are outside of jurisdictions are being returned, to make sure they know that they're answering to the crimes that they're committing localized here within our region. And they're well informed of that when they come back in the processing. So those are a few of the things very quickly that beyond the dashboard and beyond just the bail enforcement checks, we will be continuing to do that as localized here for our investigators to make sure that the people that are out on bail are doing what they're abiding by those conditions. So thank you again. I'll be passing it off to our next. Thank you. That's where, yeah.
You have enough work. I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Thank you. That acknowledges I'm the shortest person at the table. The numbers are just staggering. I mean, this is Canada. Who are all these crooks? You know, this is the land of where we cheer for the Montreal Canadian and eat poutine. And sorry, I want to acknowledge Deputy Mayor Godwin Chan. Thank you for joining us today. I know you have a busy schedule. Appreciate your time. Thank you. And speaking of the numbers, and you're good to show us how many patrol cars we have, but I'm going to steal a bit of that before I introduce our next speaker, MP Johari. We need money. We need more cars. I can invite you to speak.
Thank you, Mo. Good evening and a nice setup. Okay, so money is in the check is in the mail. You know, Canada Post is not cooperating. That line is not going to sell. Anyway, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you. As a second speaker between me and the question and answer, and the fact that we are running 45 minutes late, I'm going to make my remarks very, very short and focused. First of all, I want to start by acknowledging. And starting with Castro, thank you for the leadership that you've shown in the community. I've lived in this community for 25 years, and most of those years you've been my counselor, and I've been very well informed. So thank you for facilitating this meeting. Thank you for Neighborhood Watch. As most of you know, I spend most of my time in Ottawa, and it's so good to know that there is such an organization and such a group of dedicated community members who are focusing on keeping us safe. Thank you, York Region Police. As you could see, the number of initiatives that's going on. So, as a member of parliament, my job is to really listen, communicate, and advocate. So, tonight you are seeing an example of a great partnership that is unfolding in front of you. We've started talking about the municipal government. We talked about some of the community leaders, specifically around Neighborhood Watch and the role that they are playing, the partnership with YRP. I often, when I go to Ottawa and talk about some of the best practices in our caucus, I talked about when it comes to public safety, I often talk about that partnership. And that partnership is quite evident tonight, and with a strong partnership. A lot of my colleagues actually reached out to some of their community leaders to talk about setting up a collaboration between their community leaders around public safety, such as starting something like Neighborhood Watch, as well as their local police and municipality. So this partnership really has provided an opportunity for us to not only get a first-hand experience, but also be able to easily advocate for what my job is. So having lived in this community for 25 years, I've seen it grow to a beautiful place that it is right now, but also facing ever-evolving challenges. And you heard from car theft. By the way, a car was stolen from my driveway, so I'm in the same boat as most of you are. My neighbor house was broken in, and YRP was there within a few minutes. Thank you. But these are the reality of life. The reality of life is that, I get Instagram messages that a bunch of teenagers broke into the jewelry store and helped them mom. I hear I'm on WhatsApp and I get that somebody's door is broken. I wake up and I see a car disappear from my driveway. I go to an event and people talk to me about the challenges that they have around feeling secure, not only in the neighborhood, but also in their home. So as a member of this community, as also as your representative, I live the same challenges, I live the same fear, and I advocate for those, and I make sure that Ottawa and the legislative arm here is it. So what do we do in Ottawa? This advocacy and this partnership that I talk about really is focused in Ottawa around three main areas. One is around legislative, and Chief MacSween talked about the bill C-48, which is really trying to strengthen a number of, I don't want to call it loose legislation, but legislation that, needed strengthening. And the focus of the legislation really has been on lately, and specifically as part of the fall economic statement, which was presented back in late 2020, December 2024, is really around bail system. Trying to strengthen our bail system. So we have repeat offenders, we have young repeat offenders that they are getting around the loophole and being released, and they're now third, fourth time offenders. And now, because of their status that they have, their age status, they're also falling under influence of organized gangs and criminal gangs, and now guns are put into our streets and being put in the hands of, let's say, young adults who don't have the fear of persecution. That is an area that needs to be strengthened. And for those of you who actually follow the fall economic statement, there was a very strong bail reform mandate was put into it. Another area that the federal government is really working on is around capacity building. And the capacity building is a number of fronts. Again, Chief MacSween talked about, most of the car thefts and what they're doing. They're ending up in Port of Montreal. We had an opportunity to meet with the chief. What an exemplary group of people who are working in there. There was a lot of conversation with the Prime Minister and with the members of York Region MPs around what the federal government can do. Integration of the registration from VIN number was one of the ideas that the chief put on the table. And as I'm sure Chief noticed, the Prime Minister was on the phone right away and saying, okay, I want this and I want it done now, because this is something that we could do very quickly. Again, work between provinces, another area that again Chief MacSween highlighted, and also the scanners. Believe it or not, when the auto tech kind of raised its ugly head, one of the startups in Richmond Hill put a proposal together around scanners for major highways to be able to scan the cars and all of those things, and that was handed to the minister. So really capacity building around a number of fronts, around technology development, around partnership, as well as funding for OPP and RCMP, CBSA to be able to stop the guns from coming from down south of the border, and also building capacity. And I don't think York Region Police falls under OPP to be able to get you funding, but we're working on that. And finally, around community safety. So community safety has become a major concern for the federal government. So there's a lot of funding has gone down. I'm not going to read all the funding that has been announced under community safety program under the capacity building. But what we have a handout for you. For those of you who live in south of Elgin Mills or Richmond Hill South, I'm sure you get my community mailers, and we have highlighted all the government investment that they've done, whether it's on the legislative side, whether it's on capacity building side, or whether it's on the community. They're available as you leave, and I'll be here to answer any questions you have. Now, the last point is about, okay, so you've told us about the federal government, and what are you doing? What are you doing as my MP? Well, as I said, my job is to listen and to communicate. I see a lot of familiar faces. I'm just recovering from a cataract surgery, so if I don't acknowledge all of you, my apology, but I have 6 community council. And a number of those community council are around seniors, around affordability, around environment, around small businesses, and health, as well as community safety. So we've had a number of meetings. We meet every Tuesday from 6 to 7. A number of you are members of so many of those community council, and we hear from you. And we've had participation from York Region Police, as well as Region of York Region, who came and provided a lot of information around safety. So what do? We actually do listen. I heard all your concerns. A lot of questions that I read are the questions that are brought up and presented to us in the community council. And those are basically put in a report. And to a large extent, for those of you who participate, we go back and we say, do you remember when you talked about bail reform? Do you remember? Okay, here we go. In fall economic statement, the bail reform was one of the topics. Okay, I'll stop there. I know we are 45 minutes over, but thank you very much. Thank you very much for being involved, and thank you very much for being engaged. And I'll be there to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. MPP Daisy Y is our last speaker, and then we'll move to the Q&A. Oh gosh, we met, I think, 15 years ago at Real World, and I didn't know you were my neighbor.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, Mo. And first of all, I just want to say thank you to our great Councillor Castro Liu for organizing this great event, and especially thank you to our mayor, David West. I think we just go to the washroom or something. But I just really want to say thank you. This is, thank you, Mayor. I just thank you. Because this is important. The collaboration is important. I'm so touched by YRP having a whole team there. This is the second time that we're doing this because we recognize how important it is. Everybody is concerned about the auto theft and the break-ins. So we have already organized one in November. When we do, or late October actually, we already see the concern from the community. We have been listening, and we have been advocating that. And I'm so thankful that the provincial government, we have put a new ministry together, really just to fight against this auto theft, especially on the bail reform. We have our new minister, Minister McGregor. He came here soon as he got elected. I already immediately put him in here, along with my mayor, along with the YRP, and along with everybody here. But tonight, I'm a lot more impressed because you all are the captains, the local captains, that you work together as a community. It's a collaboration that makes that difference. I'm really thankful that we have this. I know that our province has done, we see the importance. That's why we have a new minister just to be on top of this. But more than that, as what the YRP has recognized, we have put in a lot of grants. We put extra helicopters there. We put, the minister, our Minister Michael Persner is really very proud of York Regional Police. And actually, As a former YRP, police services board member, I have to say York Region is #1. I'm proud to say that because you guys are doing a great job. However, it is not right just to have our members going out there. It's putting their life on the line sometimes, especially with all those break-ins, and it breaks my heart when some of our members get hurt like this. So other than just supporting our YRP members, we also have to make sure we do a lot of things that are really going to the source of the problem. One of the source of the problem, as what we have already mentioned, is bail reform. We have a lot of codes in the law that do not allow us to retain those people that we have captured. You put your life out there to capture all those guys, and we release them maybe a few days. That is really, really sad. Before I come here, I was watching TV, and it was just saying that this person is 29 years old. He was on a bail charge, but then he put fire onto Walmart. It's a 10 million damage. Can you imagine that? I mean, these are the kind of things that we're facing. We have to really go to the root of it. That is to make sure that we have to change the codes of the law so that our bail reform is really in place. I still remember maybe quite a number of years now, our former Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, I still remember he went to the YRP, one of the gala, announcing that we are going to do this to those people. We cannot release them out just like that. But as we change to new government, things will change. And we are now seeing the problems coming even worse and worse. So we have to stop that. Not only that, this is people that are organized global international crime. And people come here, they know everything. I'm sure you have, I'm so thankful that you have all those technology helping you. But then they also have great technology there. They know why, what, and where to go. Richmond Hill is really having great people with good houses. They want to make sure they come to York Region, come to a lot of people that can have this kind of, that will be good for them. And more so as they are making good use of the vulnerable, those young adults who may be drug addicts, or we have immigrants here, and they need a lot of support financially, and they grab hold of these people, and those people are really ready to do a lot of daring work. So our job is to make sure we also put a stop to those. Our provincial government knows that the social problem is also a big problem. That's why we're also working to help the drug addicts rehabilitation as well. So I thank you, Madison, that just come out here. We have, as I say, in October, have done something similar to this. We also sent out a newsletter to everybody in Richmond Hill. Whatever you mentioned, the Auto Guard 2.0, a lot of all you mentioned, we have that in that newsletter. If you also want to have a copy, I think you might already got a copy of it, but if you want more copies, come and ask Madison for it. All I'm saying is, I know that time is running really off your schedule, but I just want to say that we are here to work together with you. Collaboration is the answer. We will make sure not only do we stop the people not to have break-ins, not to have car theft, but our government is going to work onto the source of the problem and make sure that we are all protected. If there is anything I can be of service, please give us a call. I'm just a phone call away, okay? Anyway, thank you very much tonight, and thank you again, Councillor Liu, for doing all that, and thank you, Mayor. Special thank you to all the captains. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna try to catch up on time. So we're going to move to the Q&A section, and the hope here is to allow all of you to ask questions. I have a list of questions that we've collected from the community, but I think it's more equitable to let you, but what we'll do, ground rules, there's the mic. If you can line up, and if I can ask one small favor, and that is whoever wins the mic race first. To be equitable to all, maybe one question if possible, and
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much, and thank you for this arranging this meeting and your presence here. We feel very safe inside this hall, but we feel very unsafe outside today. So this community, you know, just the number of people here just show how much concern there is in the community. And question really is directed. I think our local law enforcement are doing a terrific job. It's incredible, and thank you for what you do. We need support provincially. The court system, which you enforce, is backed up. Many cases take a year or two. In the meantime, people are released on bail. That's got to be fixed. And at the federal level, the Criminal Code of Canada, as it stands today, is absolutely unacceptable. We've got to clean it up. We've got to stop this, catch and release stuff. We only have so many resources with law enforcement, and when they are directed at going after people that have been arrested already before and out on bail, it's just such a waste of time, and it must be demoralizing for law enforcement. So we really urge the provincial and the federal leaders to get the act together. And just as a comment for the organizers, we've spent a good part of an hour and a half just listening to speeches. Please allow time for the Q&A, because there's, between people that are here and people that are online, there's probably 1,000 people here. Just listen to them. Thank you.
thank you. So by all means, if you have, I don't know if there was an actual question.
I just want to quickly respond. Well, yes, we do understand that. We do know the code of law has to be changed. And that's why we have this special minister to do on, especially on the bail reform. We just cannot live with this. We see this happening, but we cannot do this because we have to go through the federal to change the code of law. And I really want this to be changed soon. And I know that they're already realizing it and is working on it. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for acknowledging that this is a joint responsibility on the legislative side, both with the federal and provincial, and also acknowledging the fact that our courts, especially in Ontario, are backed up, and are also our jails are have very limited spaces, and at the end of the day, it is based on the discretion of the judge to provide the bail or not and get people out. But you're 100% right on the federal side. As I said in the fall economic statement, and the detail of it is out and is going to be out soon. It's covered the detail of the steps that's being taken to strengthen the bail and the sentencing.
Thank you.
Just want to take a moment to thank all of you. Appreciate your time and the stats. Amazing. Since YRP is represented, most of my question is for you, Chief MacSween. It's going to be a rapid fire.
So just to give you some context, 30% reduction in RMP is
part of the 70%, and so am I. I lost my car as well for my driving. 6 back-to-back mall brazen robberies, 6 in 3 months. Right? That's concerning. Break-in enters, I don't know how many of them are there. And we in the group, we actually hear about it sometimes in real time. Because you have appreciated that we do have an active neighborhood watch. It's very concerning. In fact, recently we had somebody's pet being shot with a BB gun, right? You must have heard of that incident in Richmond, in Bayview. It has gone to that extent.
with all of this and looking at your stats, there are a couple of things that I actually heard from you. I heard Port of Montreal said many times by many of you, right? I heard more resources, more cars, Bill C-48. I'm guessing that's probably a compensation of Bill C-75 somewhere or whatever, or some background that comes from 75. And then I heard about CCTV. So maybe just 3 rapid fire questions, just take you a second to answer them. Based on the priority, if you were to choose between 2 options, and there are 3 questions, and each one will have 2 options. Bill C-48 today, or 20 new resources today. Which one would you prioritize?
Sorry, I missed the second part. Or how much resources?
20 resources. Let's say 50 resources. Which one do you think is going to be most impactful for you to help you in your duties?
Well, I think I won't just say Bill C-48. What I'll say is bail reform is going to be more impactful. And I'll tell you why, because it touches on, I do want to address something you had mentioned, sir, as well about backlog in courts. There is some judges have, a judge, the Chief Justice, has pushed out some rules that every court case now has to be heard by 15 months. And there's a process in place that's actually being pushed out through the province right now at the provincial level to make sure all of the disclosure, all of the rules that are set in place will achieve the goal of getting trials done to 15 months. So that should help with the backlog. That's a start to help with the backlog. There's other things going on, too much to explain that I'm aware of in the backside of that. Bill C-48, I won't just suggest it's Bill C-48 at bail reform. The reason I say that is because you mentioned a lot of things. All of those jewelry store thefts. You mentioned like vehicle thefts. The reason you will see that all of our media releases, where it's violent crime, any of these repeat types of crimes, organized crime, shootings, right? You will see in every one of our media releases, if there's somebody, which in many cases there are, on bail, it's in every one of our media releases for that very reason. That is, to me, one of the critical pieces that has to change. And we need to be talking a lot less about criminals and a lot more about the victims, right? Because if we continually worry about the charter, and I'm not suggesting we aren't worrying about the charter is there and it must be, we have to adhere to that. But we have to put the victims at the front and center of this conversation. You people like yourself, people like everyone in here, anybody in here who's been a victim, right? We have tried our very best to make sure that the discussion that we're having is more about that and a lot less about the people that are perpetrating the crimes, which it has been many years ago, and it continued for a period of time, about ensuring, that things were adhered to make sure people got the fairest shot. And then what we ended up with was a system that wasn't serving the victims, in that these repeat offenders being spun right back out into the courts. And we were having to meet thresholds at the highest level to hold people in. It shouldn't be that way, right? There's got to be a balance in the system, and the whole system has to work together. Right now, it's not. And so I would leave it there and say there's a lot of work that can be done, that is being done. There's a lot of lobbying that's being done at both the federal and provincial level. But I will say, like people like Majid and Daisy, these are people that care deeply and are listening and are taking that message forward. And I had the opportunity myself to speak to the Prime Minister about a month ago when he was up at York Regional Police. And I'll just reiterate to you what I reiterated to him. You've got to do something about the border. We have 90% of the handguns coming across the border here in Canada from the US, right? And we own the incoming issues coming in from the US. The US doesn't. So the reality is it's our problem. I'll be involved in a meeting with a number of chiefs as well as the minister and the federal government and some of the US officials in the coming 2 weeks. This is going to be the discussion, and you're seeing a lot of work going on right now through the federal government and the province with a number of choppers and resources that are being implemented down at the border to try and do a better job to secure that. we have to figure out what's going on there to make sure these, I can tell you straight up, every one of these crimes, for the most part, where we seize handguns and we see discharged firearm cases going through the roof from time to time, when we seize handguns, they're coming from the US, right? And, the Prime Minister knows that. I told him, and he knows, and our Premier knows that. So the last thing I'll leave you with on this, because it really is a resource issue, there is work being done, but you can't invest heavily in policing and not invest heavily in the ministry, in the justice system, right? Because that's how you end up with more backlog. Because we will continue to arrest people and hold people to account and push people into a court system. If the court system is not working to manage that, then we're going to be right back in the same place we are. And we'll probably see that play out throughout the year and with another election and all of that. So I know I've wrapped a lot up in that, but I wanted to assure you that there is a lot being done and there's more, definitely more can be done. C-48 for sure. Fail.
Thank you. I just said rapid fire because I know it's going to take time to answer this. Rapid fire, please, just yes, one or two. Between the two options, if you have the access to Port of Montreal to scan everything that's going out versus AutoGuard 3.0, which one would you pick first?
All day long, the Port of Montreal.
Thank you.
That's great questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lots of people want to ask questions, so I'll make it short. So we have heard that the crime rate is high, and we need to deal with it. Big part of it is the bail reform. I want to ask about the timeline of bail reform. We know that our current primary is not working until later of March. Then we need to line up for all the bills, and then maybe another 3 months. Is that, correct me if I am wrong, is that right? Before I see the bail reform, we need to wait about 6 months or 9 months before the bail reform in place. What is the current timeline? What is the timeline in your mind that the bail reform can be really in place and we can see a difference here? That's my question. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. I know there's a lot of uncertainty around what's happening at the federal government right now. So had we followed the standard procedure as part of the fall economic statement, the bail reform would have been debated in December, and going back January 27th, which is next Monday, we would have started, and that would have been the first item on the agenda. Now, given the fact that the House has been prorogued and we're going back on the 24th of March, it is my belief that regardless, as part of the speech from the throne by the new Prime Minister, we will see bail reform again being reintroduced, and it's going to go through the House for the debate and the vote. And hopefully it will pass. If not, then it's going to be on the platform agenda. And you're specifically asking about 6 months. Nobody knows. I don't want to say yes to be able to give an answer. The bottom line is, with the current situation, the fact that the fall economic statement did not get debated, and the fact that we're going to go and have a speech from the throne, I really don't know. I'm led to believe that the bail reform will be as part of the speech from the throne, and there will be debate on it. Whether the speech from the throne is going to get the confidence vote or not, I don't know. And if that doesn't, it's going to go to an election, assuming it's a 35-day or 35 to 51-day election. We're talking about the May timeframe before the current government is re-elected or a new government is elected. But in the meantime, the investment that's done and the partnership as mentioned around C-48 and some of the funding that's already been announced as part of the budget 2024 and as part of the fall economic statement, what has happened is a lot of work is being happened. The investment around $900 million for CBSA, $1.5 billion that's being given as part of the border security. I know Mr. Trump is talking about, President Trump now is talking about 2% migrants coming to Canada or from Canada going to US and some a little bit of fentanyl, but he's not talking about the guns that are being shipped to our country. And we're the one who's actually wearing the brunt and he's not taking any responsibility. So specifically to answer your question, around 6 months, I do not know.
If you have a chance to talk to the Prime Minister, please let him know that I don't know why he stopped the Parliament, but it affects us. We need to live like this for another half a year or maybe a year, to live like a war zone. Every night I need to go to sleep. Oh, they are locked out the door. Anyone to come close to my house is like that. Anyone is my alarms ring. If they have someone break in, I need to leave. I have no defense right. Like, it's not Canada.
Yeah, so
please let him know. I don't know why he stopped the Parliament. We need the Parliament working.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry, it's angry to live like this.
yes, thank you very much. I know this is an emotional and this is an issue, but just want to assure everyone, the fact that the Parliament is not sitting, what it means that the new legislation is not working. We're not working on new legislation. We're not working on it for the past 2 months before that because of the privilege motion that was going on. I won't get to the details, but I can assure you all the ministers and all the ministries are actually working. So Minister of Public Safety is actually very actively working on this. So it's not that the government is shut down and everybody's gone home and slept. No, what is happening means that the bills are not being debated in the House of Commons in Ottawa. That's all it means. But the ministers are still at their post. The ministers are still, the departments are still working all the bills and everything that has already passed as part of, as I said, budget 2024, the bail reform and all of those, fundings announcement and funding, all are still being worked on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Thank you. I can understand your concern there. I feel the same concern. In fact, I've seen it since in the summertime and getting worse and worse. That's why we have been spoken up. And that's why in October, we have a new minister and he has been talking about the bail reform for a long time. And the Premier has also been speaking actively on that. We cannot do anything if the federal government is controlling the code of law and they have to go through the bill to make the changes as well. Unfortunately, it's taking longer than what we can do right now. But on the provincial level, we will continue to work hard and make sure that, like, we have to, even if we go through the judges and they go through the court, but if there is a code of law that governing us that we can only retain them for whatever, we have to follow that. But at the same time, we know that we need more jail to house all these prisoners. We have already worked on that and we have already increased that. But the only one thing that we're missing now is to change that code of law so that we can put those people in jail. And we're working on that. Unfortunately, this is how the condition is right now at this stage in the federal level. I understand.
Thank you so much. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, first of all, thank you everyone, especially Castro for organizing this and all the distinguished guests at the table. First of all, I totally agree with all the concerns that other people asked already. To make simple, we see besides the bail system, for example, we're reporting a 32-year man with over 70 plus convictions, was driving a stolen vehicle and hit police cruisers. That's it. And another news, which was a couple of days ago, 19 or 18 years old young guy charged with the disappearance of the real estate agent, Anita. Her office actually right at Bayview Hill. And a friend told me her friend is the mom of a teenage high school boy involved in a mall jewelry robbery. Now, besides changing the legal framework, why those young people, the 32-year-old man, a 32-year-old young man, imagine 10 years ago, only a very promising 22-year-old young guy, now with 72 plus convictions already.
And another two news about this. Somewhere, the education system or whatever, we need to do something to prevent. Prevention always very, very important. To not to supply our young people to the organized criminal groups. Our MP or MPP, as David already mentioned 10 years ago, it's comforting to see the trend now going forward and up and downward now. However, my question is, any idea from all of you to prevent our teenagers, young adults, become a very innocent, really heartbroken victims of those organized crime groups? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Yeah, maybe I can add something to this question. You would have known perhaps that we had paused our school programs in high schools back around 20. And COVID occurred. We worked quite diligently with both school boards for the better part of a year and a half, and we're back in the schools now in a different way. But with real programs that are actually to address a lot of the issues that you're talking about around gangs, around drinking and driving, around a lot of different topics that were agreed upon by both the schools, community members, and our officers. So that was we felt that was a big win for the organization and for the community, because we were hearing from many members like yourself, sir. We've got to be back in the schools to be talking about a lot of these issues, because if we're not doing it, we can't build relationships with kids once they're adults. We have to be building them all the way along. And I think that's part of this whole process around crime, because engagement is really, it potentially can be true crime prevention, because we steer people or give the opportunity for our officers to provide information, to be able to give them what they need to sort of make better choices and help them not become people like that are got 72 criminal charges already and not even out of the school system yet. So that's my perspective on it. I mean, if anybody else has anything, by all means.
Thank you. I agree with what the chief is saying, and I would just add, and we really didn't talk about this particularly during this meeting, but regional council spent a lot of time in the lead up to the budget for this year's regional budget, and made a decision that we were going to invest in policing. And the amount of extra resources through the budget that we will be giving to York Regional Police to do the work that they need to do. And like Chief MacSween said, all of that work and the work that I alluded to earlier about the police doing more than just what you think they're doing, like driving around in patrol cars and so on, they need the resources to do that. And increasingly with what's going on right now, there are no simple fixes, and we've talked about that today in this meeting. But I think that the enforcement part of it, which is really under the direct jurisdiction of municipalities like Richmond Hill, we need to be able to make sure that we're resourcing the police service well enough so that they can do the work they do in the community. They can do the work that they're doing to prevent crime. They're doing the work that they're doing to investigate crime when it happens and bring it to a final fruition. It's all very labor intensive, but it's also very technology intensive. So investments are going to be made. We won't have time to go into this today, but it'll be on the Region of York website if you're looking for more information, that we are doing whatever we can in the Richmond Hill level and in the York regional level to make sure that we're equipping our frontline officers with the tools that they need. And just quickly, I agree also that, we do need to prevent these young people from choosing this life. And, that's a complicated issue that's well beyond the scope of this meeting as well. But I will say that at the Region of York, we do offer social services in a number of different there, but we have And we aren't going to take the pressure off until we get to where we need to be as a municipality. And as I said, finally, we're not the only municipality right now dealing with this. All of my neighborhood colleagues in Ontario that I've talked to are dealing with this.
Thank you. Thank you. Does that, sir? So, did you have a follow-up or?
To be, just add one more thing about this young, heartbroken young kids got to get victim that become the criminal groups. I share my opinion with some friends because nowadays when we go around, you can smell those weed smell so easily. I feel teenagers, high schools are really, really in danger because of this legal change. Is there any way for RMP and MPP to change it back?
So let's talk about number one. I think the whole issue of the youth is a multifaceted issue, and I think the chief pointed to that. One, there is need to be a conscious effort around managing these criminal gangs. So this is organized crime. This is organized, a very, very sophisticated organized crime. And what they have tapped into an area of the law which says if it's an individual who's committing the crime is under the age, there's going to be some consideration done. And that is the piece that we really need to look at. And the federal government is looking into, especially the repeat offenders, Repeat Offender Act, to be able to do that. The other one is around empowering youth and youth engagement, and really addressing some of the social determinants of poverty and why the youth are getting involved in that. We need to find the root cause of that, whether it's a broken home, whether it's opportunity to be able to wear, I don't know, use the latest iPhone, or whatever it's driving him to do that. We need to be able to address that, and that starts with the education, and that starts with addressing some of the socioeconomic situation, and also engaging him at the community level. And last, you talked about legalization of let's say weed, as you call it, in the school. By the way, that's illegal. So there is no legalization of weed in schools. Okay, so if youths are getting access to cannabis, it is not through legal means. And if they're consuming it at school, and I'm not sure whether there is a correlation between legalization of cannabis and youth consumption in the school and then breaking and all of those. I yet to see some stat data, but I just want to reassure you that use of cannabis at school or by any youth is considered illegal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, this member.
So if you don't mind, I'm sorry, Ms.
I'll just quickly say a couple of things.
Sure.
I just want to respond to what you're saying. I fully agree with your concern. Actually, the number one thing I was really against it is the legalization of cannabis. Unfortunately, it comes from the federal side, and I have already said that we do not support it provincially. But unfortunately, because it's federally approved of cannabis, we have to go for it. But I voted for Richmond Hill, can we opt out not having the cannabis store in Richmond Hill? And that was agreed by our municipality. So we do not have cannabis in here. However, you see around us, we got so many vaping stores. It breaks my heart. And that's why Minister Lecce, before he becomes the other minister yet, he is making sure we have back to basics in education system. We do not talk about a lot of moral standards for students for a long time. These are the kind of messages we have to put back in place. And now we're saying no vaping at school. You're right. People wouldn't even dare to go to the washroom because there are a lot of smell in there, and you will be attracted to start vaping as well. So we will be that's exactly what I said just now about we have to go to the source. We have to stop all that. I would hope that we will change, that we will not have any more cannabis in Canada, period.
Sorry, I have one more harassing response.
Sorry, do you mind if we just move to the next
Especially
question
for
to compare to everybody else?
our MP, because my observation is that high school, maybe 10 meters away from door, we always smell marijuana.
No doubt.
High school students not legally allowed to use, but we do smell that.
I think that's a true, good point, good point. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll invite the next gentleman.
Can you hear me? Yeah, thanks. I'll try to be quick. I know it's getting to my bedtime, and I'm sure for others as well too. Just one comment, one ask, one question. I'll try to be quick here. Just a comment, just as it relates to the numbers. I'm a little bit concerned that we've lost what good looks like. And what I mean by that is the numbers that you showed, we're talking about 30% reduction year over year. I think we need to think about where we were before the rise. We're back now, we're talking about 300, 350. You showed numbers in the 180 category. And now we're talking about as car theft being down 30%, we're feeling good about it. I appreciate that better is good, but it's not good enough. And so I think the question is, how do we get back to where we were is a minimum standard? So that's just a comment that I would make. As part of getting back to a much better state, I heard words like coordinated. To be honest with you, I don't feel this is coordinated. Like coordinated for me would be all of you walking in and saying, what would a coordinated plan look like to get back to 2021 numbers? It's really hard sitting in this room trying to figure out what each of you are doing to collectively, again, on a coordinated basis, being able to do that. So I'll leave that thought with you just so you know it doesn't feel like coordinated when you sit in the room seeing how all of that comes back. So that would be my ask. There was reference to that fact that we can do this again. I'd love to do this again. I think this is extremely valuable to hear some of the things that you're doing on surveillance that we weren't aware of, some of the programs. So genuinely really appreciate the work you guys have done here and really valuable. Know that you'll get tremendous show up from this group at the next session. But providing a more coordinated plan would really be helpful for us. And then just lastly, my question, obviously there's some long-term solutions that are in play here and required to take time. But we need short-term solutions now. And Castro, I think you do a fantastic job as a side note. But the practical realities is we need more help now. Like I've talked about this many times, we need lights. I live in this neighborhood in Bayview Hill, and I would encourage you to drive on your way home through this neighborhood. Let alone letting your kids drive in this neighborhood. It's scary. But the concept of, if I was a criminal, I wouldn't want to rob this area. It's dark. There's no chance anyone's going to catch you. So practically speaking, that's not a big ask in my opinion. Put some lights up and let people know they're being watched. Surveillance, CCTVs, we have 3 in all of the markets you talked about. That's unacceptable. I'm not sure how significant that investment is, but we need more funding for surveillance now. And the signs. You know, it was pretty quick to put up a 40 limit speed sign on my lawn, which was, I didn't complain about, by the way. But how about putting some more signs that are neon and saying this neighborhood is being watched? So my ask is short-term solutions now, not long-term promises later, including light surveillance and signage. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. I'm going to invite Councillor Liu to address the light.
Yeah, I can address the light issues. I cannot speak to the surveillance and cameras, I'm sorry, but I also want to see that happen too. But what I'm going to say to Bayview Hill people is the LED light is coming. We just did a study that, you know, we are below the standard, the light standard. So before the reasons that we are not able to do it because we have to change the whole fixtures, and then we have 1,000 light poles. And that's a really, really significant capital budget. But now with the hard work of staff, they figure out they can just change the bracket and keep the poles. So it significantly reduced the capital cost. So it will be in the upcoming budget, and the construction will be in 2026. And thanks to council, mayor and the deputy mayor and all the council members making that happen. No, we have 1,000.
2025.
No, this year is 2025, yeah, but we have... Yeah, I've been working on this for many years and, you know, finally coming. I understand the frustration, but we still have to go through the budget process, you know, pending with the council approval, then we'll start doing the constructions in early
I
2026.
get that, but I'll just leave this and I'll sit down. But that's my point, right? Everything was 26, 27, 28, and then we're going to talk about how the numbers are up, and then you're going to tell me how we're 30% down from even higher number. We need solutions now.
Can I just take a moment and just respond to just a couple of your asks? So on the CCTV front, Richmond Hill will be scheduled to actually have further installation in relation to CCTV. I know that there are some areas that obviously warrant that. In relation to car thefts, obviously we do continue to have a proactive position in terms of enforcement. But to your point, what needs to change in terms of car thefts, we need to ensure that we are not a criminal exporter of cars for Canada. That ultimately our borders, and you've heard the chief, our borders are porous, and we need to start with, it can't be that easy to put a car on a container and ship it overseas, and that needs to be a priority. So when we talk about rises, although 30% doesn't seem like a great deal, it is when we're talking about cars in the hundreds. So hopefully, as we move forward, we will see some more traction in that front.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Hi there. So going off of what the gentleman who was here earlier wearing the blue sweater, what he said really touched me. I go to sleep, worried, is tonight the night that my home gets broken into? I check every door, make sure everything's locked. We're setting the alarm every night now. But the thing that I'm still most concerned about, which I've spoken to a police officer about before, which he didn't give me a clear, he didn't explain it really well enough, is if somebody breaks into my home, what rights do I have to defend myself? What can I genuinely do? Because all he told me was that nobody in Canada is allowed to cause any form of bodily harm to another. But then the news story that I watched that drove me to be here tonight was about someone's home here in this neighborhood who got broken into. Their dog was shot with a pellet gun. I have a dog. There's no way in hell I'm going to let my dog get shot with a pellet gun without causing some bodily harm. But I work in childcare, so making sure my record is as clear as possible is extremely important to me. I'm not a violent person whatsoever, but at the end of the day, if somebody breaks into my home, I can't let my family get hurt. I can't let my parents get hurt. I can't let my dog get hurt. They want to take the car. We got insurance. Take the car. It's not an issue. They want to take some money. That's not an issue. But at the end of the day, if people are coming in with guns, whether they're pellet guns, real guns, knives, whatever it is, and they're looking for a fight, I'm not rolling over. So I really need a clear understanding of what my rights are, at what level do I have to match their aggression. I still just don't have a clear understanding, and Google does not help answer this question. And, and the police officer I spoke to did not help answer this question. So, I figured you guys are all here in front of me tonight, and maybe, the rest of this crowd might want to hear this as well.
It's a fair question, and it's something that we definitely have struggles with the community, and I'm sure people here are probably feeling the same way. I mentioned before, C-43 under the criminal code provides the ability for people to defend themselves, obviously within reasonable ground. It's not a ticket to hit someone, or someone's coming in, it's obviously smaller stature to knock them down, whatever, reasonable force. Can we give, and that's why I mentioned earlier, is there a one size fits all for anything? No, there isn't. And that's probably why there's somewhat maybe some hesitation on maybe that officer you spoke with. For every situation, can I do this? Can I do that? It's very difficult to say, but I will say that however it is, your family dynamic at the time, you need to be taking your family and your personal safety first and defending them with whatever is coming at you at the time. From what we're seeing here localized in Richmond Hill is for a lot of these entries where it's say targeted, they're coming in to take keys or whatever, and they don't want confrontations with individuals. And that's the information that we're saying, to put that in fair context. I know it's not a great answer to give you, but I can't provide something overall to saying, in this case, you shall do this or shall not do this.
So, sorry, going off the presentation you guys showed, and this is to do with what CTV News had with a police officer speaking. they mentioned that in your presentation, you say keep the key fob near the door. But a couple months ago, they were just telling us, sorry, you guys are saying, sorry, your presentation said the opposite. Your presentation said keep the key fob away from the door. But then on CTV News, just a couple months ago, we had a police officer talking about keep the key fob near the door so that when they break in, they grab the keys and they're out. So I'm kind of
that's not a recommendation. What I put
so keep it near the door, or no, sorry, away from the door.
No, yeah, use a key fob, keep things away, and that goes for variance. If we're talking break and enters, don't, as I mentioned before, don't put valuables in areas where people are going to come and look. If it's the key fob for the vehicles, keep those away. Okay? Don't. That was, I think, is something I don't know where that came from. I've heard it a couple. Yeah. Okay.
It was a different agency that, not that it matters, he misspoke. And trust me, I'm sure he got heavily criticized for it. He's away from the door. In a Faraday bag if possible. And that's the best way to defend yourself, because we don't want people seeing the keys, even if it's visible, because that's going to cause the potential for somebody to break in, right? What he's talking about here on the other matter, though, it's very situational. That's why you're never going to get an answer from any police officer, right up to a chief of police, on what you can do when, and JJ's covered that, because every one of them are situational. Potentially a homeowner could get charged criminally depending on what the outcome is, and then they may have a defense to that. So the question then becomes, do you want to go down that road? It's dependent on what the situation is. I know what I would do if somebody's attacking my family, and I'm sure you know what you would do.
Can I ask, what would you do?
I'm not going to tell you. I would defend my family like anyone else would, right? I mean, that's your family. That's your castle that you're living in. You own that place, right? So, but I would never.
Not me, my parents.
But I would never endorse anybody taking matters into their own hands. Lock the doors, call us, get out of the house, do whatever you have to do to make yourself the best witness, right? And the least potential to be a victim. That's what you need to look at.
Thank you very much. Just quickly, how do I go about setting up a neighborhood watch in my neighborhood? Because I know that there's one in this neighborhood. Those two gentlemen?
What area?
It's nearest major intersection is Yonge and 19. Neighborhood's called Jefferson Forest.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an officer at the back, right there with his hand waving. He's a crime prevention officer. Speak to him and we can give you some strategies in terms of how to set that up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Questions.
Thank you.
And just, thank you. You reminded me of something. The map that's there covers, I have great glasses, but I can't see. I think it's Bayview Hill, right? So if you live in Bayview Hill and you're not part of the WhatsApp groups that exist, I would encourage you to walk by the map. There's a QR code. And there's also sign-up sheets because we do need some data. But I would encourage you to speak to the consul. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman has a question.
Well, can this be out of respect for everyone's time, can this be the final question?
Well, I have one lady that I'm holding for the end who had a question. I promised her I'd get to her, so that would be it. That's okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Mr. Chen. I know you don't know me, okay? One of your friends' home was broke in a few years ago. Okay, I'm also concerned about this very important car problem, hijacking. Also, break-in is the major concern in my neighborhood area, okay? So I heard a lot of time tonight. People said the cost. What is the root cause? What caused the people shooting? What caused the people car hijacking? For every car they possess, they have to declare a export license. So I don't know why the government allowed those car export from Canada to the Middle East, right? There's no way, right? If somebody has to be responsible for this, right? Why people shooting? I think impersonal. The root cause is money, too much money. Why people hijack the car? Money, okay? Why those people need money? because those people backed up by somebody, they have to do it and get some money. Get some money to do what? Illegal thing, like cannabis. You have to get this out of the legalization, right? Put it an illegal. So you have to do this. I don't believe that your kids, your family's member will take cannabis, you were happy. Government promote you to plant 4 cannabis in your backyard. What is it for? Right? Medical. Go to the doctor. Go to a government. Government will give it to you. Right? To those people who drugs, you take it to get away from the drugs. That's the good government. I understand that every party, they have an agenda behind. Right? So who legalized this cannabis? Is a bad government. It's a bad government. Thank you. So, Madam Vice, she said just now, I don't allow cannabis house or whatever smoking in Richmond Hill. But unfortunately, the neighborhood township will put people here. Those bad guys will come here to harass you and to break in your house because you have a big house. The whole Richmond Hill, particularly Richmond Hill, everybody is a big house, right? I don't know how many break in this area. This is totally unacceptable, right? If no such thing, people will not thinking about, I need money to buy drugs.
No, thank you.
Right?
Thank you very much. I think those are important thoughts.
I landed in Canada 30 years this year. I don't worry about safety in the first 20 years. My wife said, I'm really, really nervous because I moved from North York to Richmond Hill 10 years ago because my house was broke in and my family members is very nervous. I am not nervous because I'm a Kung Fu fighter, okay? If I'm going to protect my family, except they come upon me, I will going to fight for them. This is mine, just like our police chief told him, okay, he will protect his family.
Yeah.
I will protect my family too, okay? Even I lost my life or put me in a jail. This is a ridiculous such a legal country. They allow those people to do this. Unfortunately, I see a lot of police officers stand up to speak to the public. You put yourself in safety, right? You promote this to those people who crime, okay? Yeah, those people will say, oh, if I'm see you, you will keep yourself safe, go away. Don't say that. You promote this, right? Those bad people will say, oh, the police is asking people to go away, right? Don't do that.
No,
okay?
I agree.
Do it in other way.
I think,
right?
no, thank you. I think there's a lot of emotion in the context.
I'm not emotion. I'm just emphasize, okay? No. I just emphasize, right?
Thank you.
Politician, everybody, they have their own agenda. But please get away from those like gambling, okay? The TV, the radio said, oh, don't gamble, okay? Don't try to gamble and then you have a lot of family problem. Why you promote gambling? And then you spend money in the radio and TV to tell those people, don't gamble.
Yeah.
Right? This is ridiculous.
No, I agree. And,
right?
and I'm
okay, that's all for my tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So please.
Thank you.
Get away from those gambling and also cannabis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So officially, this is the last question. Yeah, so we've actually covered a lot of questions. So go ahead.
Actually, I was wanting to kind of follow up the gentleman who talked about the lights. And I wanted to say I live in Bayview Hill. And for the last 3.5 months, the lights at our intersection don't work. And I have gone online on the Richmond Hill app and reported it more than 3 times because it worries me every night when I look outside. It's all dark. I don't know what's going to happen. So I just wanted to bring that up, that, yeah, the LED lights might take another 2 years, but at least the lights that are there, not working right now, should be fixed. Yeah?
So I know that there's probably a lot more questions. Unfortunately, we are at 10 o'clock. Yeah, but I think we have to be conscious that there are people working in this building who probably need to go home as well. And out of respect for them, out of respect for the people that are here.
Just a
I want
suggestion.
them in their office doing their work tomorrow morning.
Just a suggestion, not a question. It seems like there are lots of questions still to be answered. Could we maybe have a follow-up, and I think you people spoke about that, where there is less of stats, because I'm not expecting those stats to drastically change in the next, whenever we meet, and more Q&A time. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'll try to organize another one shortly. And I think they already covered that in the presentation. So thank you very much. I know it's late. Thank you very much for showing up tonight. And I would like to also thank not only the panelists, I would like to thank all the volunteers who help out tonight, making this meeting possible. Also like to acknowledge, I forgot to acknowledge you, Eleanor. Thank you. You are the one that started the petition. You are part of the reason that we are here today. Hopefully we can have we can achieve something. I know there's lots of questions that answers, but I'll try to organize another one. Have a good night. Thank you very much.